What's up everyone, it's Dan and I'm back for another lesson in drumming without drums. In this lesson we're going to talk about an extension of 16th note triplets. And what I mean by that is we're going to talk about how you can group 16th note triplets in really cool ways to create really cool beats and really cool fills. So this is kind of like a topic that I refer to as the keys of the castle, which means that once you start mastering all these different subdivisions, right? Like we already talked about how 8th notes, 16th notes, 8th note triplets, 16th note triplets, but we're also going to talk about 32nd notes. Those are all different subdivisions. So not only are you able to play really cool beats and really cool fills when you master all those different subdivisions with your hands, but you really start to master drumming and music and rhythms when you can play those subdivisions between your hands and your feet. Okay? So that's really what we're going to talk about, is different ways to play 16th note triplets. So just to recap, remember these are 16th note triplets. It's just 3 notes for every 8th note, right? So it's like this: 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and, right? These are 8th notes. 2 and 3 and 4 and 16th note triplets. 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 2 3 1 2 3 1 2 3 1 2 3, right? And again, to remind you, we go from the right hand on the first 8th note to the left hand on the second 8th note, right? So those naturally alternate. So last lesson we talked about those 16th note triplets and how we can play them all around the kit with just our hands. What's really challenging, but what again creates really cool beats and fills, is when you can subdivide or split the 16th note triplet up between your hands and your feet. Mainly your right foot if you're right-handed, the foot that's on the bass drum. So for example, we have 6 notes in a quarter note's worth of 16th note triplets, right? 1 and then we hit beat 2. So 1 2 3 4 5 6. Now think about all the different ways you can split up those 6 notes. I mean, you can use your imagination here, but one of those ways is to play the first 4 16th note triplets with your hands, alternating, and then play the last 2 with your bass drum foot. So it sounds like this: 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. Now think about how cool that will sound, how cool that does sound when you place that all around the drum set. Now I don't have my little blocks here, but you can just imagine. I'm going to show you that pattern now between my hi-hat and my snare, and all the different ways you can just play that one pattern. So watch this: 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. See that? All I did was I played that same pattern, but I split it amongst, well, the hi-hat and the snare here. But you can do that with anything around the drum set. If you have something that acts like cymbals, whether you have your toms, feel free to place that pattern wherever. Now, sticking with that same pattern, think about what you can do as far as sticking goes. Sticking, and what I mean by sticking is, we have alternate sticking, right, right, left, right, left, right, left, or we have doubles, basically, right? So you could play 2 notes with each hand, and then play your 2 notes on the bass drum. So it's like this: 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. I mean, you can play all 4 notes with one hand. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1. Okay, so let's talk about some other patterns you can play. And again, this is just sort of to open up your brain to all the different combinations, and you can try any combination you want. I'm just going to give you some ideas here, okay? Some patterns to start out with. Some things to get you thinking, right? So what if we switch that up? we played the first two notes of those 6 notes, of the 16th note triplets, with our bass drum, and then we played the last 4 with our hands, right? It would sound like this. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1. See that? Now, see how I'm going really slow, but typically when you're playing a medium tempo groove, like 1 and 2 and 3 and 4, and then your 16th note triplets are going to be pretty fast. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1. So think about those patterns that we just learned faster around the drum set. They sound really, really, really cool. Okay, and there are also patterns that you could use if you ever are in a position to play a drum solo or something. Those are really cool. But let's just talk about some other patterns, okay? We played 2 notes with the bass drum so far. Let's play 1 note with the bass drum. Again, we have 6 16th note triplets. What else can we play? How about if we play 1 and 2 and I'm playing 2 16th note triplets with my hands, alternating, then 1 with the foot. So that's actually a simpler pattern than what I was playing before when you think about it, because it's really just 3 16th note triplets per 8th note, and I'm splitting them up, 2 with the hands, 1 with the foot. So 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. Now that is really cool up to a more moderate speed, and you can put that all around the kit. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 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 1. Really, really cool. Now, when you're playing your bass drum without an actual bass drum, that's a little easier pattern to get, because obviously playing your bass drum twice in a row on the floor is kind of hard to get fast because you don't have the natural bounce of a bass drum. But so that's why maybe you want to focus at least on first on the patterns with 1 note on the bass drum. So you can play that last pattern pretty fast even without an actual drum kit, right? 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1. Really cool. Now check this out. What if you took the first pattern I played, right? 4 with the hands, 2 with the feet. And then that last pattern I played, 2 and 1, and you put them together. I'll play it real slow, just so you can see, and then I'll speed it up, right? So it's like this: 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 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 3 and 4 and 1. I started to speed up there just so you can see how you don't have to stick to like 1 pattern. You can combine 2 patterns and put them back to back, and again create really cool fills. So mainly what we're doing there is playing fills, right? We're constructing different ideas around the toms. But you can also work these into grooves, which is really cool too. And when I say grooves, I mean a beat, right? So instead of just playing 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and, I mean you can play 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1. See, I'm still keeping 2 and 4 on the snare drum. I just started playing 16th note triplets, and all of a sudden I got a really, really cool beat. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1. I mean, that's really challenging, but again, it's a different idea. So hopefully I'm kind of inspiring you to think of different grooves and different fills. Let's try one more before we end this lesson and you go off and start to experiment. But why don't we play, let's see here, why don't we play the bass drum, the 2 bass drum notes in the middle of those 6 notes. So it sounds like this: 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 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 1 challenging because you got the bass drum falling in this really kind of interesting space, right? The last 16th note triplet of the first eighth note into the second eighth note, and that already sounds really confusing. But that last one is pretty difficult, okay? But again, any of these patterns you can play with different sticking, right? If you play 4 notes in a row, you can play 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and. You could put these on the cymbals. You could do the opposite, 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. You could play 1 and 2 and. All these different ideas simply by mixing up the sticking and where you put the bass drum. And whether you play the bass drum on 1 of the 16 note triplets or on 2 of the 16 note triplets in a row. So just by doing that, hopefully I'm opening up your mind to all these possibilities. And because this is such a difficult concept right now, start really slow. So when you're playing these with a beat, you want to make sure you're going like 1 and 2 and maybe even slower, 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. So start playing a beat, maybe this slow, maybe even slower, and then try to do your patterns after like a measure of the beat. So you alternate measure of the beat, then measure of the pattern. So here we go. And 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 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 and 3 and 4 and 1. I'm out of breath. I haven't played drums in a little bit. So this is my cardio workout for the day. Okay, so anyway, you get the idea. That's how you do it. Come up with your patterns. Practice the ones that we went over. Come up with your own and then put it in a beat going really, really slow. And you're able to stay slow and know where you are because you're counting. Some people play these things and they don't know what they're doing. They just hear drummers do them and they think, oh, I could kind of do that. But little do they know they're speeding up. This is an easy pattern to go and just fall over yourself, okay? You don't want to do that. So anyway, keep that in mind too. So we're going to come back next time and we're going to talk about 32nd notes, which is another subdivision we can split up between the hands and the feet and create all this cool stuff with, all right? So anyway, have fun, enjoy the holidays, all right? See you next time.